Uncle story time, black figures in our home. I haven't written anything in quite some time, partly because we sold the house where little Adam is, and my experiences have been very scarce since the move. We bought a small 3-bedroom house in a little town called Heidelberg. The area is so nice and quiet, not as noisy as Kempton Park. And considering the amount of times we had attempted break-ins in Kempton, it is very refreshing not to worry about outside people trying to get into the house. Not that this town is bereft of crime, it is just so much quieter here. The house is cozy and really is a good fit for the twins and I. It is an old house. The lady we bought it from had lived there with her husband for 37 years. He passed away 4 years ago. In the first few weeks of moving in, I had random little experiences that I chalked up to having new house jitters. One night, I woke up from the sound of a plastic bag being moved around. I buy snacks and stuff for the boys for school and keep the bag in my room, hidden from them so they don't eat everything. This bag was kept behind my dressing table, and the whole house is laid out in parquet, wooden block flooring. So when the bag was moved, it sounded like it was being picked up, and as I stirred, it fell to the floor. Guess who battled to sleep for the rest of the night? After we went to Mozambique in December, and a friend of mine, Jake, looked after the house for us, it seems he brought some guests with him who decided to hang around after he left. He is into some very dark stuff. My friend Tim has seen the things that have attached themselves to him, and he says they are not pleasant. A week after we had moved into the house, this is September 2018, the boys and I went on a trip to go and pick up the puppies we had decided to get. Chocolate Labradors, a girl and a boy. Early in February, one Sunday morning, we noticed that the boy was not looking well. I went to him and checked his gums, as my dad had taught me, and they looked healthy. But it bugged me that he seemed very sluggish and wasn't eating. The thing that made it worse was that around an hour earlier, he had been playing in the container we had their water in. It is big enough that he could fit into it, and he would splash around in the water. An hour later, the poor boy couldn't lift his head up, and by the afternoon he had passed away. He had seemed to throw up before he passed. There were white puddles in a few places. This made me think that he might have eaten something poisonous, as the girl was completely fine. But it didn't make losing this precious boy any easier. For the first 2 weeks after he died, our girl dog sat in the backyard, crying. She howled a very heartbreaking sound. I was aware of an oppressive presence in the lounge/TV room since we got back from holiday in January. But after the dog died, it seemed to intensify for me. I would feel very uncomfortable walking around the house. In the dark, I would get these mental flashes of our dead dog looking at me from the shadows. I chalked it up to the fact that I have never been able to deal with animals dying. It always upsets me horribly. But with it came this horrible feeling that something terrible was standing right next to me in the morning when I unlocked the front door. It would be so bad that I could barely stand being there for a minute just to unlock the door and leave the house. I had started using the front door since the dog passed, as he had died, right next to the kitchen door, and I also could not bring myself to walk past there in the dark. I know it sounds juvenile, but I hate the idea of walking around the area where he died. I also got a very bad feeling coming from one corner of the backyard, the same kind of oppressive feeling as by the front door. So, as per usual, I called Tim and Elaine and asked them to come over. We had a nice visit, and I mentioned to Elaine that I felt bad vibes in the house. She went and spoke to Tim, and he took his time strolling through the house and yard. He came back to tell me that our boy dog was still being a good boy, running up and down the one wall in the backyard. He picked up that there was a black figure in the backyard. He said the thing has no visible facial features and seems to be pulsating. Sounds weird, I know. The entity in the house, however, also black, had very clear facial features, according to Tim. But he said I don't want to know what they looked like. He knows how this stuff freaks me out. He did not know that Jake had been in the house, but he flat out asked me if Jake had been there, because the thing in the lounge he had seen around Jake before. I told him Jake had stayed in the house for 2 weeks, to which Tim just shook his head. He did a cleansing and the two entities seemed to have left. He also told me that there's a young boy, looks to be early teens, running around the house. Maybe he is the culprit messing around in my room. I don't feel nervous in the dark anymore, and I can even walk in the backyard in the dark. Of course, now I know my boy is there, I talk to him too. Our girl seems to know he is still around. She barks at the back wall and will run up to it and jump around like she is playing.